Hey podcast listener, you are tuned in to the Quantified Web podcast, the show where we talk everything web data, metrics and analytics and how you can improve your website through a data-driven approach. If you want to know more about this podcast, all the things we talk about, head over to quantifiedweb.com. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Quantified Web podcast. I'm Julian and today I'm joined by Cyril Gantzer from France and we want to talk about his tool Hublo. So hi Cyril, how are you doing?
Hi Julian, I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you calling in from France right now? Which city?
I'm calling from Paris actually. Hublo operates from Paris.
And how many people are you now in your team?
We are a team of 5 people working on the product at the moment, but we're growing. So if you're an engineer and you're in Paris and available, be sure to send me an email.
Yeah, great. So tell our audience a little bit about you and how you got started in the whole analytics space.
Well, I started doing analytics at 55. It's a company I was part of. I was a consultant with them in Paris. I think it's the biggest analytics firm in Europe. It's like 90 people at the moment. And what they do is they do web analytics services for big companies. So they have McDonald's, Air France, many big companies that are switching to the web or trying to expand their web presence. And they have no people within their companies to get them started with all the data they have to analyze. So they rely on third parties like 55 to do it for them, and that's how I got started with analytics.
And were you more on the technical side or more on the analytics side, so to say?
Well, I was a consultant, so I was doing slideshows and the presentation and insights, but something I quickly realized, I'm from a business background, but something I quickly realized is that you have to be a bit technical to do web analytics.
Right, and that's why also your tool that we're going to talk about today is really going in that space that makes it a little bit easier for people to work on it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Let's talk a little bit about digital analytics in France or in Europe. How do you see the scene? Have the companies really realized the power of analytics?
Oh, definitely. It's a growing massive thing, and companies like 55 or other consulting firm have paved the way. But what I see now is that more and more companies hire themselves people to handle analytics internally. So we had to have these companies to show what was possible and how you could use web data to take better decisions, make better investments. But as companies grow online, they realize that, well, their future is online. So they have to have the tools and the skills and the people to be prepared for this new side of their business. So it's definitely growing.
What do you think about like the tools out there? I mean, the lower end market is dominated by Google Analytics, but there are higher end tools out there. I know that in Germany, for example, we had a lot of problems with the whole privacy issues, that the data is actually sent over to servers in the US. How is the market in France seeing that whole issue of privacy? But also, what are the most used tools out there?
I know Germany is really big on the privacy thing, but I think in France it's not such a problem. And tools like Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics or people use AT Internet a lot here. People are okay with them, and actually Google Analytics doesn't even collect PII, personally identifiable information. So actually Google is not or should not be able to tie your Google Analytics data with who you are.
And to the point that you are now developed a tool for the web analysts out there to easily analyze the data. How do you see the market in the tool market? I mean, there are a lot of high-end tools where the tool vendors make a lot of money, and there are now lower-end tools that do one functionality very well. Does the whole market move more into the more complicated stuff, or more easier?
I think there are two different markets. There are very powerful tools and that are also very specific. And I'm thinking about like Mixpanel, for instance. Mixpanel to me is the most advanced analytics solution out there, but it's really, I mean, it's only data analysis, and that's okay if you have a web application or a mobile application or something where data. Raw data are very important, and there's a market for that, but I think it's quite small, or it's smaller compared to the other market, which is big companies doing marketing online. And those companies, they need data that can be activated. They need to do A/B testing with it. They need to do customer relationship. They need to do emailing, advertising, and for that you need big solutions, and Adobe Analytics is doing a very good job at integrating many layers of different tools to activate this data. And I think it's a different market. It's a really not cheap market, because, for instance, Adobe Analytics could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So I think they'll still have the upper hand in this market.
Right. Okay. Wow. Very interesting insights from you. Let's see how it plays out. It's just interesting what kind of tools come out. There are a lot of Silicon Valley startups to come out with new and big tools that tackle this whole analytics space in different angles, right? So there's business analytics, and website analytics and so on. So it is a thing that a lot of companies think about. There's a problem out there that not a lot of people are using it. And so there's also from an analytics standpoint, there's still a growing market out there.
Yeah. I mean, everybody who's doing anything online has to use analytics. It's a competitive advantage that you would be foolish not to use. So whether you're doing e-commerce or lead generation or a mobile app or a game, you have to use it. And the tools are not quite there yet. Most of them are complicated or technical or too narrow. But it's moving fast, and more people are getting equipped with those tools. So yeah, a growing market. Definitely.
Now let's dive right into today's topic, which is Hublo. So Cyril, tell us what Hublo exactly does.
To sum it up a bit, if you want to do analytics, well, you have to. Most of the tools today are relying on JavaScript. So Google Analytics is actually pulling information from each page load, and they call it page views. But you can go far deeper and get all the events and all the dynamic data created by a visit on a website. And all of this is actually quite technical. You need developers. You need people who understand JavaScript to make the most out of the existing tools. Well, Hublo is an analytics tool for the people I mentioned previously, the people who don't know JavaScript. It installs just like Google Analytics, so it's a copy-paste of a JavaScript code. But once you've done that, you don't have to touch the code anymore. And so from there, it can track everything, from the clicks to the form submissions to the videos viewed, and how deep did you read into the page, and how much is actually sitting in your basket, and so on. We're able to track everything, but we don't require you to write any code for that. So you just browse your own website within Hublo. Hublo is a web application, and you select the different elements and the different variables, dimensions that you want to track, and we deploy it for you. So no
So I see it as something like Visual Website Optimizer or Optimizely for more in-depth analytics. So you can track your interactions on the page. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, Optimizely and Visual Website Optimizer have the kind of the same kind of technology as we have, but they use it to let you easily tweak the page and they do it for A/B test or MVT. But what we're trying to do is to build a very, very solid analytics base, which goes far deeper than just the page views or the clicks. Actually, if you want to segment users in Optimizely and just test the people with very high baskets, I think you still cannot do that today. And it's because they went really fast on the CSS and HTML tweaking tool, and they didn't dedicate much time to the segmenting and analytics tool. And we're taking the other route.
Okay, I played around with it a little bit. So would you see it as complementary to a tool that I already have running, like Google Analytics or Kissmetrics, or can it replace this one of the big solutions out there?
Actually, it's we synchronize everything with the Google Analytics account. So it's not replacing Google Analytics; it's an addition to it. But compared to, say, Kissmetrics, I'd say it's still different. Kissmetrics allow you to send personal data to Kissmetrics, so you can see who is spending a lot and make cohorts and stuff like that very easily. And we're not quite there yet with Hublo. It could definitely happen in the coming weeks, coming months. But today it's really I'd say a very versatile tool to track actions and track data that you would have to rely on a developer to track otherwise. I mean, Kissmetrics is a very powerful tool, but you have to set it up and you have to do all the implementation and say this is a product, this is a price, this is everything, and it could take quite some time. That's exactly the opposite of what we do.
Yeah, cool. I heard already a lot from a lot of friends of mine who come up to me and say, "Hey, Julian, how can I track this button?" And I tell them, well, it's a little bit complicated. You need to go into your code. You need to choose this, this, and this. And so they come back to me and they say, okay, that's too complicated. I want something like Visual Website Optimizer. I want to click on it and I want to track it. So that's something.
That's exactly what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what Hublo does really nicely. I tried it out. What are the more advanced functionalities? So on a basis, you can track everything. You can also do stuff like funnel building, right?
Oh well, everything you track is turned into an event. You can track page views, clicks, forms. If you have videos, we track that you launched the video. You can send dynamic data. So, for instance, if you're tracking a search form, you can have it send what was actually typed into the form. And then once you have all those events, we allow you to organize it as a funnel. Because we built Hublo for people who are overwhelmed by Google Analytics. And there are some things that Google Analytics does really well, and there are some things that Google Analytics either does really bad or doesn't even do at all. And I'm thinking about, like, for example, retroactive funnels or retroactive goals. You cannot have a conversion rate on something that happened last week if you didn't specify it as a goal last week. So.
Yeah. So what comes to mind right now is the tool Heap. That does also this. It captures basically everything, and you can go in and say retroactively what has happened there. So, are you actually collecting all that data all the time, or how does it work?
Actually, we're not, and I'm very curious about Heap Analytics. What they're doing is really amazing, especially from a technical standpoint. But I mean, how we do it in Hublo is that we ask you to specify what's important to you, which button, which element of the page, which data, and I'm not sure how he put. For instance, if you have a product page with a price and a remaining stock, I don't know if Heap is able or is able today to pull this data from the page, but that would be very interesting. And I think Heap is really building the future, but I don't think it's already baked yet. The idea is great to be able to dig into past data and yeah, don't have to worry about implementation anymore. But at the moment, I think you still have to specify things if you want them tracked in heap.
So when we talk about when we talk about specifying everything in Google Analytics in order to track something, like and that's what Hublo actually does great. You can just click on it and say, I want to track this. What do you see on the market that is out there? What comes to mind in my mind is obviously Google Tag Manager. It is not the easiest tool, I must say, out there, but it exactly does that. You can say, okay, I want to track this element.
It's not the easiest tool, but it's a great tool, and we are actually using it to deploy Hublo on our own website. Google Tag Manager and tag managers in general are also part of the future. You talked about them in your last podcast, I think. And actually, they're not replacing IT, but they're replacing something that IT shouldn't be doing or shouldn't be doing as regularly as they are doing today. And that's very important, but it's still a technical tool, and you need either help or you need to know about regular expressions, or you need to know about firing rules or macros. And so yeah, Google Tag Manager has the capability of doing what we do, but we really wanted to focus on the user interface and make it really simple and really usable for people that are not developers or that are not on the technical side of analytics.
Absolutely, and I must say that it's a very nice product. It's beautiful designed, and it's really easy to set up. I mean, it's the same as Google Analytics. You just need to paste the code, but then you have this visual interface of saying, okay, this is really important to me. So that makes a lot of sense from my side. I'm always a fan, actually, of tools that you actually use. So if you go into the most of the bloggers out there, or whoever sets up a website, they mostly use Google Analytics, or they set up Google Analytics, but they don't use it actually, and they don't never look into the metrics that are there and draw any conclusions from it. So I think Hublo goes the right approach of making this whole thing a little bit more conscious. So what do you want to actually track, right? So you go in and say, this button is very important to me because it's the main opt-in button on my page. And then you are more likely to also look at that data. And Hublo gives a great starting point, at least for these users out there that are not as sophisticated as a web analyst or a agency that installs Google Analytics for you.
Yeah, and that was very important for us, because usually those people who don't know about web analytics are the one who need it the most, because they are the one either buying traffic to the website or trying to build a community like on Facebook or on Twitter, and they want this community to become valuable and come to the website and make a purchase. But they don't have the tools, they don't have the skills. And Hublo is a very minimal product. You can track events, you can track data, you can build funnels, but not much more. And that's a conscious design. It's going to evolve in the future, but at the moment we want to only let you do what is really important for you to take decisions.
Right. So Hublo is a startup, right? Did anybody invest in you, or are you bootstrapped?
Oh, we have a couple of French investors, French entrepreneurs that have invested in us. Yeah.
Cool. So how can people can try it out, right? It's free.
People can try it out, and actually, even our pricing is aimed at enabling analytics for people who need it but cannot use it. And if your website is doing less than 25,000 visits a month, which is not a lot, but 97% of the websites out there don't have this audience. It's actually completely free, so there's no real downside, I'd say.
Yeah, I checked it out and I put it on the Quantified Web website, and I'm playing around it right now. It's a beautiful product, so keep it up. And
thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to TT, Tool and Tip of the Week. So, Cyril, you told me that you have a great tool for us today.
Yeah, I have a great tool for you, especially if you're trying to gather traffic from Twitter. Either you have an audience on Twitter or people talk about you on Twitter, and you can see these people coming to your website in Google Analytics. It would be marked under the t.co referrals. It's marked as social traffic, but it doesn't tell you much about the content that took people to your website. And sometimes it's great content. It's people praising your offers and products. Sometimes it could be bad content and tweets saying how you had poor service or a bad experience with you. And you want to be aware of that. And I found a really, really cool tool that builds upon Google Analytics, which is called Campalist, and that lets you see which tweet brought what traffic. So you can see exactly the original tweet that had a link to your website. And I found it very, very useful to re-engage with people who talked about my product or brought people to my website.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that it's leading more to people analytics again, right? And in the end, you want to know who is that persona that comes to your website. And if it builds on Twitter, then you can really have all the interactions there on one fingertip. And
it's really it's definitely actionable. What I call actionable analytics. So it gives you data, but it gives you also hints on what to do to get more of what you need. So if you need more people talking about you and more people coming to your website and converting to customers, well, it's definitely helping you to reach them.
Right. And this wouldn't be, it wouldn't really be possible to track at all if you wouldn't have such a tool that actually builds on Twitter, because otherwise you need to tag the links or something.
The only thing that Twitter gives you is the referrer. It would be t.co/ and a random number that's actually tied to the link, but you cannot go back to the exact tweet, the tweet that contained the link. And Campalist is keeping lists of all the tweets and all the links within the tweet to make it possible for you to connect them. So
very, very interesting. I would recommend it, of course, to all the bloggers out there who say that they have a lot of traffic from Twitter, but also, I guess, the software guys like you, and people are talking about the product and linking back to your site. Then this would be a great addition to something that makes something like Google Analytics, where you only see that Twitter traffic is coming in and you assume that somebody has mentioned you, but you don't actually know. Cool. I guess this wraps it up for this episode of the Quantified Web Podcast. Remember that you can find the show notes on quantifiedweb.com/Hublo. And thank you, Cyril, for being on the podcast. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Just go to hublo.com or blog.hublo.com. I actually blog about analytics and how it can make your life easier as someone doing web marketing.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And check out hublo.com. I'm Julian. Till next time. Wow, you've stuck around till the end of this episode. That's so cool. Thanks. But now, let us put some data to work. Please head over to iTunes and leave us a review so we can work the analytics in our favor. Thanks.